My name's Hadaya, and I'm here for some English help.
Okay, perfect. What do you want to work on today?
Well, I'm struggling a lot with my thesis statement, and the English professor that I have is asking me about graphic novels and whether they're just for kids or if they're not. And so I don't really know if my thesis is good enough or not.
Okay, perfect. We can certainly look over the thesis. If you want to go ahead and email me your prompt in your thesis, I'll go ahead and put the tutoring email that we use in the chat and you can send it over there and then I'll just read through it.
Okay.
Have you gotten any feedback from your professor on this thesis?
I have not. Instead, they asked me to come to the tutoring lab.
Okay, perfect. I see it in the email, so I'll just go ahead and read through it. I'm just going to read through the first paragraph real quick.
All right, thank you.
It looks like your thesis right now is graphic novels are not just for kids because they contain stories and themes for adults. And then your prompt is asking you, you said that an English professor thinks that graphic novels are just for kids. To what extent, if any, is the professor right? You need an argument in a minimum 4 to 5 pages. So for your thesis right now, I think you have a really good start. I think your main issue is that you just need some more sort of specificity just to make it a bit more arguable. And one way you could do that is by omitting some of the vague language that you have in here. So for instance, you say, not just for kids because they contain stories and themes for adults. What do you mean by those stories and themes?
Well, I was sort of thinking like there's a lot of themes and stories like sort of ethical and moral conflict. There's a lot of violence in certain graphic novels that are just not meant for kids and more understandable for adults. It's like graphic imagery. There's heavy subject matter. But I was just thinking about like these bigger like worldly problems and like, for example, like retirement is brought up in a lot of the graphic novels. And I was just like thinking that these things aren't very easy for your children to understand. And I think even if a child did read these graphic novels, they'd be understanding it in a very broad sense.
For sure, yeah. And I see later in your essay you mentioned The Watchmen as a way to sort of back up this thesis. And it looks like you do talk about some of those themes, retirement and like the heavy like sort of graphic imagery. And so because you're using Watchmen to back up that sort of argument, I think it would help you to include some of those reasons that you just said in your sort of revised thesis. So you said like ethical dilemmas, violence, heavy subject matter, graphic imagery, sort of like ethical dilemmas. So I think it would be beneficial for you to include those themes. So you're basically defining story and theme, right?
Yeah.
Just by providing some examples.
So
And go ahead.
Is a thesis like, does it have to have like a because statement in it, and or is it supposed to just be a statement that I believe?
It has to be an arguable statement. So usually with your argument, you're going to want to include some of that rationale in there. Otherwise, you're just creating kind of a broad overarching statement. So for this one right now, if you just said and you left it, graphic novels are not just for kids, right?
Yeah.
Technically you could argue that, but you're missing all of your rationale. So adding in this extra evidence helps you sort of build up that argument. So that way you can then in all of your body paragraphs throughout this paper, you can go through and you can sort of focus on those themes and kind of like tie them all together as you're writing the paper. So you can sort of think of your thesis as like you're guiding your main argument, your main opinion, and then all of your topic sentences and all of your body paragraphs should tie back into that thesis and support that argument, right?
Okay, that sounds good. Can I work on the thesis a little bit? I think I have an idea of what I want to add in it and then ask you how it sounds afterwards.
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna just type it out real quick.
Yeah, and then you can go ahead and like read it aloud too.
All right, I think I'm almost done with it. I'm thinking graphic novels are not just for kids because they contain stories and themes meant for adults, like moral grayness, ethical dilemmas, and violence.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that sounds a lot better. By adding in some of those reasons, you're sort of showing your readers what evidence you're going to be using in each of your body paragraphs, right? So in a body paragraph, you're likely going to be talking about violence and maybe some examples from Watchmen. Or like right now, you're talking a bit about some of the ethical dilemmas. So you're already talking about that. So it's great that you added that to your thesis. So yeah, I think that reads a lot better. You're omitting some of that vague language by adding in those specific reasons. Do you have any other questions about it?
I think that should be all. Is it okay if I come back? Um, I'm wondering because after I like finalize this essay, I really want to come in later and see if I need any more help. I'm struggling with embedding quotes, so I think after I finish my essay, I want to come back and ask about that.
Of course, yeah, yeah. We're open Monday through Thursday, and we have like in-person and online tutors. So yeah, of course you can come back.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It was nice working with you, Hidayah.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.